Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser, currently here on anchor in Tenedo's Bay, Desolation Sound, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing it and others up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. This week I finally get to head out on the beginning of my summer cruise, starting with a jaunt over to Vancouver, which of course I absolutely love. But before that, I finally get the Galley installed and, well, not functional, but we'll work on that later. Let's get to work. Alright, so here's a relatively scungy temporary plinth of spruce. And, well, like so many things in my life, yes, it's temporary because I'm going to be changing the way the sole works in this area. I need to make an access hatch to get at the top of the fuel tank, an access hatch over here. I still have wiring and stuff and plumbing to put in behind here, and plus I'm taking all the cabin sides off the boat next winter anyway. So everything in my life is a proof of concept. This is yet another proof of concept. So let's see how the cabinets fit. Oh, right then. So now it's pretty evident what the notches are for. They just sit right in there like that, and it allows me to have much deeper drawers down here and perfectly adequate drawers up here. Love it. So I need a slight trim here on this piece of trim, and then it can go hard against the bulkhead. Now there's going to be some trimming to do here. This piece of trim, which is missing from there because of a previous cabinet, is also going to have to come off for a certain degree. Not worried about that. And in. Now it won't go all the way because of this piece of trim just now. It tells me where I can cut it, perhaps. And I say perhaps because I'm not sure I need to cut it for the rest of the cabinets. So what I'll do is, next is a base for my fridge. And there, that to support the fridge. And finally the stove cabinet, and it's a little different because it has to come in the window. Otherwise I'd have to take two doors off hinges. And there we go. So the purpose of this exercise is to figure out if I have to cut this trim. And it looks like I do. But before I do that, I'll cut this little bit of trim out so I'm sure we're exactly lined up with the bulkhead. Trim fits in there. This one fits against here. These two fit against here. Beauty. Don't get too worried about this. This is cheap Marente trim, basically house trim. Anytime you take something apart, I think it's a fun opportunity to have a look at the way something's made. Okay, so this particular connection on Monks is a bit unique for wooden boats, at least of this era. What we have here is 1.5 inches of Douglas fir, and you can see it's just a solid plank all the way out the deck. And then there's 1/2 inch of marine ply, which of course this boat was built in 1953, so that was a relatively new product. And everywhere I've exposed any of this, it's in fantastic shape. This is the original canvas decking cover that went across that plywood and over the side of the boat. And then this ledger piece went on or basically, I don't know what you really call this, because this has a big dado in it or a big rabbet in it to take the cabin side. If you watched me rebuild the aft bulkhead on Zephyrus last year, same detail exactly. It's basically got a big rabbet in it for the cabin side to go in. And this is carriage bolted through. You can see the heads or the nuts here. The carriage bolts are actually sitting in the bottom of the rabbet. There's some things about this detail that I'm not thrilled with, but on the whole, it's pretty good. While we're here, I'd like to show you something else about the way these monks were built. Disregard the abandoned through hull. You'll notice there's no beam shelf or shear clamp or whatever you want to call that. Basically, this solid big chunk of dug fir just has all kinds of notches cut in it, and the frames are set into those notches with fasteners in to the end of this, giving you a reasonably good moment connection there. And what it saves you is having to have a great big shear clamp in here. It obviously is strong enough because these boats have held together relatively well, and I haven't detected any shifting in that detail at all on the boats. I am sometimes tempted in some places to maybe put in a few little knees, but that's another project for another time. Let's carry on with what we're actually doing. All right, so I want to dry fit this again and see where this is actually all going to sit. That fits snug right into there. Okay, so once that's down on the plinth and inside that little notch, it actually is pretty much exactly perfect. Wow. Wow. Fantastic. As you can probably imagine, when I designed this, I had to take a bunch of measurements in space. Of course, the side of the hull is curved, the side of the cabin side is curved, the height changes, and that was the control point to make sure that the cabinet didn't stick out too far here. And so everything actually is absolutely perfect with 1/8 of an inch. That's fabulous. Just fabulous. While I'm on a roll, this is a good time to dry fit the stove. Crikey, this thing is heavy. Whoa! Excellent. So that wraps right around, just like that. This is flush with the top of the sink, so when I bring my soapstone across, it'll also just sit on the edge of that. Back here, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. Now that I've dry fit this, I'm going to measure to put another little piece of counter material in there, and that'll be just fine. Woohoo! Ha-ha! Haven't cooked on this thing in years. Okay, so I've cut a clearance hose for the propane line, and I have a brand new beautiful propane line. Let's make sure I do not nick this in the wrong place. I'm still not quite sure where the propane locker is going to go. I have a brand new plastic propane locker, but not quite sure how that's going to be arranged. Let me fish this through from the other way for a second. Okay. Now this is just routing the hose. I will slide this back out and do a proper pressure test with some soapy water when I finally connect it up. And back you go. There we go, some P-clips for this propane hose. And my little fridge, which is a good challenge because it is chock-a-block full of frozen food for the summer cruise. Actually, this little fridge has been good to me. Please fit. Thank you. Let's just reach in and plug it in. I'm not saying it's elegant, but it'll do for this summer. Ooh, ooh, bacon and sausage for all summer long. Okay, this is really coming together. It's tempting to put the sink in, and I've been debating what to do about a counter. I was originally just going to use the tops of the cabinets, and that's why I cut the notches that the sink could sit in here, and I was just going to put a filler piece in here to act as more counter. But you know, I'm feeling ambitious. Not overly ambitious, but slightly more ambitious than I was a few minutes ago. So I have one remaining piece of mahogany plywood big enough to make this countertop, albeit with the grain in the wrong direction, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. It means I have to redo all these notches. Big deal. Let's go. Okay. So there's going to have to be a pretty major cut along the back side there, and that'll drop that into there eventually. Okay. Make that cut. All right then, there's that. That should get us a little closer. Excellent. Now I gotta cut around this. Okay. Cut that little notch out with my Japanese saw. In there. Nice. Now I have to recut the sink, and that's not too difficult because I can trace it from below. All right then, just cut that out and we're home free. Okay. There we go. And now to mark for all those little nubbies. Okay, how about something just a little more elegant here? Try that. There we go. And last but not least, the tap faucet hole. Relatively simple process of setting this back in the hole from below. As soon as that pops through, go the other way. Well, of course you know what's coming next. Yes. Oh yeah. Well, this is pretty much it. Actually, it looks okay. Anyway, this is pretty much it for MV Geordie in the shed. I'm just going to pull her out, put her on the anchor temporarily, and bring Zephyrus back in. One of the first things I have to do is install this rather sketchy looking air conditioner mount that's going to go on her hatch, on her skylight, just in case there's another heat wave in the shed. It gets crazy hot, so we've got her prepared for that. Gosh forbid that's a problem. Then I have to go back out and pack up the last of the stuff on Geordie and head off. First stop, fuel. Yeah, always. And well, there you go. Zephyrus is snug in the shed. And I think our little boarding platform works really well. Very easy for Finn to make this tiny little step. Fabulous. And here we go. We're all set. We have the route set across to Falls Creek in Vancouver. And our first stop is going to be up here into Maple Bay, just around the corner, to fuel up. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, well, thanks. Because I'm going to Vancouver, I guess I'll go Ganges. Thanks.
Crossing English Bay into Vancouver, I was determined to give you a new perspective on the city skyline. Turns out my favorite spot in Falls Creek was, well, occupied. But no harm, I was very fortunate to find another lovely spot, in fact, directly opposite my favorite pub, so it worked out quite nicely. It was great to feel I was on vacation at last. So this officially starts the cruising season. Don't forget, top right if you want to watch the Beer of the Week.